One of the biggest wrestling events of the year goes down on Saturday night. That is SummerSlam 2023. It'll take place in the Motor City at Ford Field. So we're going to talk some wrestling. And joining me to do it is two of the best voices around the sport. Candice Cordelia, she's a host and writer for Pro Wrestling Illustrated. And Joe Calabrese, he's the co-host of the You Know I'm Right podcast. Both are here with me now. Guys, how are you doing? Are you excited for SummerSlam 2023?
Yeah, pumped. I'm ready to go.
Joe, you pumped too? You got to make sure you got the energy, Joe. You pumped as well?
I'm excited. The problem is last year I went to the event when it was in Nashville.
Yep.
This year I couldn't go, but I think it's a great consolation that I'm joining you two to talk about it.
Listen, you couldn't be there. You're here with us. That is good. You're right. This is good vibes. We're going to talk some wrestling. So I want to get things started, guys, by talking about the storylines, because no matter what the WWE event, it's always about what's going on heading into this event. So heading into this year's SummerSlam, in your eyes, what is the biggest storyline and why? Candice, I'm going to toss this to you first. What do you think is the biggest storyline and what's the reason for it heading into this event?
That's a difficult question, in my opinion, for this time around, because I feel like there are multiple huge storylines. Of course, one of them being Roman Reigns with the Bloodline versus Jey Uso. And I think that this is particularly stunning going into SummerSlam this year. You know, I was there at WrestleMania this year. We saw what happened with Roman and also with Cody Rhodes. And then going forward, the Bloodline storyline just kept getting richer and richer, more intricate layers. And now we have this family feud. So I think that this going in is one of the biggest, if not the ultimate biggest storyline. However, there are a few others that I'm particularly intrigued by. Speaking of Cody Rhodes, I also think the Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar storyline is very, very exciting. And I think that's one that people should keep their eye out on, because we don't know what might happen in the future. We could see a rematch with Cody versus Roman. Anything can happen, of course, it's WWE. But I also think, and this is my third option, that people really need to keep an eye out on Logan Paul versus Ricochet, especially because Logan, being so new to the sport, has really taken off. He's shown a real liking to wrestling and fans are loving it. And then also Ricochet is Ricochet. He's amazing. And we saw the two collide at Royal Rumble earlier this year, and that really piqued everyone's interest. So it's really great to see them coming back into the ring and having this match for SummerSlam this year.
All right, so you hear right there, Joe. Candice, there's a bunch of great storylines there that she's keeping her eye on. What are some of the biggest storylines in your eyes heading into this year's SummerSlam?
I happen to agree on the Logan Paul and Ricochet match. Logan Paul is the self-proclaimed social media megastar. And we've seen over the course of the last year or so, last year and a half since he's joined WWE, that there's a lot of crossover appeal. So last year when I went to SummerSlam, I took a video of Logan Paul doing a frog splash on The Miz to the outside, and that went super, super viral. So he's incredibly popular. These two are absolutely dynamic in the ring. They had a terrific spot, a special moment during the match at the Royal Rumble back in January. And then they had another special spot at Money in the Bank last month at the O2 Arena in London. So they're going to kick off the show reportedly. I think it's going to be absolutely dynamic. And another point that Candice made was about Cody Rhodes. So she was at WrestleMania this year. Very, very lucky. There were two sides to that storyline. First was the Bloodline story with Roman Reigns coming out on top. But the other side was Cody Rhodes. Got knocked down. What do you do when you get knocked down? You get yourself right back up. But usually the next hurdle you have to face isn't somebody the caliber of Brock Lesnar. So we see this all the time in mixed martial arts. A true trilogy match. And I think moving forward, Cody Rhodes has had spectacular momentum even after the WrestleMania loss. He's got to continue that going with a win, a decisive second win over Brock Lesnar tonight at SummerSlam.
All right, we'll see if Cody Rhodes, that is, can keep the momentum going here. Now, Joe, I'm going to continue with you on this one. We're going to take out the Universal Championship match. We're not going to talk about that one just yet. We'll get to that later. Of the other 7 matches, what are the most intriguing matchups that you think we will see on Saturday night at SummerSlam? Give me your 2 most intriguing matchups for SummerSlam 2023.
Well, let's talk about 2 of the most important championships in all of WWE. Let's first start with the Monday Night Raw side of things and the World Heavyweight Championship match with Seth Rollins against Finn Balor. Seth Rollins took to social media this week and he added another wrinkle into this storyline. A lot of people who watch the WWE know that his real life wife, Becky Lynch, one of the WWE's biggest stars, she was actually trained by Finn Balor, right? This was many, many years ago. So not only does this match, as Finn Balor mentioned on Raw, have a 7-year itch to it, and he used another word that I'm not going to use here, that is also something that is added on Rollins' end. It's incredibly personal for him. But this match is super important because the Judgment Day, which is comprised of Finn Balor, the Money in the Bank contract briefcase holder, Damian Priest, the Women's World Champion, Rhea Ripley, and now the new NXT North American Champion, Dominic Mysterio, they come out every week and they say how they are going to dominate and how they are going to run Monday Night Raw. To me, you can't really do that unless the World Championship is in your possession. And as of right now, we have two people, Finn Balor and the looming briefcase that Damian Priest holds, that may pull that World Championship towards the Judgment Day. So this is going to be very, very interesting. I'm willing to see if Finn Balor can cure that 7-year itch that's plagued him, or if Damian Priest is going to come in and take advantage of everything. So the second championship match that I want to talk about is the Intercontinental Championship match between Drew McIntyre and Sheamus. Now, WrestleMania came and went, and included with Sheamus, we had one of the greatest, not only Intercontinental Championship matches of all time, but one of the greatest triple threat matches of all time. As Drew McIntyre said on Raw, a one-on-one situation is very different than a triple threat scenario. Gunther has been the Intercontinental Champion as of today for 422 days. He is now 32 days shy of tying the Honky Tonk Man, who has the longest IC title reign of all time at 454 days. So Gunther, he's a part of a group called Imperium. He's been very resourceful. He is one of the most intelligent wrestlers on the entire roster. And you don't get to where he has, having as long of a reign as with the Intercontinental title as he has, without using that intelligence to your advantage. So I think Drew McIntyre, who's had some time off since WrestleMania here, who's a little well rested, he's going to have to come with an extra smart game plan here in order to take the Intercontinental title from Gunther. But again, he's almost 33 days short of being the new IC champion in terms of all-time record holder. So we got to see what's going to happen. But I'm pulling for McIntyre, but I don't know if he's going to be able to top Gunther.
All right, so you're pulling for McIntyre, and yes, that record is quite impressive there with how long he's been able to hold that Intercontinental title. Candice, I wanted to ask you about this because we've seen some changes and removals of matchups involving female wrestlers at SummerSlam this year. How are wrestling fans feeling about these changes? Have these gone over pretty well?
They've gone over pretty poorly, to say the least. I mean, I was pretty late to the party. I think the announcement happened overnight, but midweek, earlier this week, I woke up and it seemed like Twitter was just in a disarray. Wrestling Twitter was not having it. And there are two specific matches in mind and potentially a third one. The Becky Lynch versus Trish Stratus match that was supposed to happen. News came out that it was not going to happen, and instead it would be on regular TV, which it didn't go over well. And I can understand why, because this is one of the more anticipated matches of the evening for SummerSlam. And over the course of the few years leading up to even especially in 2023, people have been clamoring to see more women's wrestling. People constantly on social media, they want to see women's wrestling. And to have a match of this caliber between two extraordinary talents, I mean, Trish Stratus and Becky Lynch, it really was disappointing, and it still is. Yes, it'll be on television, but it's safe to say that this is a match that we'd rather see on a bigger scale, such as SummerSlam. Another match that was rumored to happen, and there's kind of this 50-50 disarray talking about it, Ronda Rousey versus Shayna Baszler. And this is something that it's definitely going to happen. I think there was some rumors and things of that nature. It's still definitely happening, but I know for a fact that people, I saw some people on Twitter saying that they weren't too keen on this match. Other people were saying, well, we want to see it happen. So there's something in the water with that, but it's still going on. There's just going to be a different stipulation with this match, but that's still definitely happening. But the third one that was rumored, and it doesn't seem like it's going to take place, but it's something that fans really actually wanted to see, was Raquel Rodriguez versus Rhea Ripley. And their feud is still percolating. So there is a chance that we can see it on another PLE in the future. But I think this is also something from what I've seen on social media that a lot of fans actually wanted to see. And a lot of the WWE universe loves Rhea Ripley, myself included. So people actually just want to see Rhea. And I think at this point, they don't care what she's doing. As long as she's at SummerSlam, they're happy to see her, whether she's in a match or not.
No, I understood that, and your good point taken there that fans, wrestling fans, would like to see more female wrestlers get in the ring at big-time events. They want to see that. Okay, last thing for you. You know where we're going because we had to save this for last. We got to talk about the main event. That is the Universal Championship, Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns. So I got to ask you guys this. Would Jey Uso defeating Roman Reigns be a good thing for the sport? Is that something you want to see? Joe, I'm going to kick this off to you first. What do you say?
You have to remember that this match is being contested under special rules. It's a tribal combat match. When you tell the history of pro wrestling and you tell the history of WWE, you can't do so without including the Anoa'i dynasty. This goes back to the High Chief Peter Maivia, Afa Sika, the Wild Samoans, The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Rikishi, who is the Usos, Jimmy and Jay, their father, and now with one of the greatest Universal champions of all time in Roman Reigns. So when we're looking at a scenario with Jey Uso, and this is the second time that he's challenging for the title of the Tribal Chief, remember, Roman Reigns' run started after he won the championship by claiming that title and within the family from Jey Uso. So Jey Uso's challenging for it again. If a Jey Uso were to defeat a Roman Reigns and continue this dynasty, I mean, it would really just solidify everything even more so, because you're looking at Roman Reigns as one of the greatest champions of all time now. It's one of the greatest runs of all time now. And starting a fresh run with Jey Uso. Another thing, too, is that Jimmy and Jay, I think, have solidified themselves as one of the greatest WWE tag teams of all time, if not the greatest tag team of all time. I think they're right there with the Road Warriors. I think they're right there with the Hardy Boys and the Dudley Boys. So if Jey Uso were to defeat Roman Reigns, it would give new perspective to what a wrestler who was previously known for being a tag team competitor could really, really do. And I mean, we've also seen this in the past too with Shawn Michaels and the Rockers and breaking away, but this would be on a massive, massive scale, even more so.
All right, so you can talk about the impact that it would have if that were to happen. What do you say on this, Candace? Is this good for the sport? Is this something you'd want to see Jey Uso sort of pulling the upset here and defeating Roman Reigns?
Absolutely, it would be good for the sport because once again, it goes into the storyline aspect, the soap opera aspect of this whole bloodline storyline and feud. And I personally don't think that SummerSlam would be the place for Jey to pull the upset. I think it has to be even bigger, perhaps maybe next year's WrestleMania. But the fact that we're having this match already and seeing how everything has led up to this moment, whether or not Jey wins or not, it's still going to be fantastic either way, because everything is just leading up to this great momentum. And if you've watched ESPN recently and you've seen the Tribal Chief with Paul Heyman, and you saw what Paul Heyman said about the Tribal Chief, I mean, he's pretty much being called the greatest entertainer of all time, the greatest entertainer in the sport of wrestling. It's going to be something to behold if Jey can pull it off. But I think even if he doesn't, it's just going to be spectacular either way. And seeing what has led up to this point and what will lead up afterwards, I think we're still going to be in for another 6 months to a whole year of this storyline continuing on, whether Jey wins or not.
All right, should be a good one. It's going to be a matchup the fans are sure to be excited for, no doubt at all. WWE SummerSlam 2023 going down on Saturday night in Detroit at Ford Field. Candace Cordelia, she's going to be watching. Joe Calabrese, he'll be watching too. They're very excited. Guys, I appreciate the insight. We got to do this again. Thank you so much.